This is for those who watched One Punch Man Season 2. Is it just me, or did Eternatus' CGI kinda look like Elder Centipedes? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, episode 44 of the Journey's anime, or episode 3 of the Sword and Shield arc, titled Eternatus, just dropped. And in this episode, Eternatus is released, and we get to learn a bit more about Rose and his plans. Let's not wait any longer and jump right into it. This episode begins with a recap of the last two episodes before we continue with the battle between Goh and the agent working for Rose. It's a pretty standard Dynamax battle. Garbodor uses Max Steel Spike, Raboot uses Max Knuckle, and before Garbodor can use his G-Max Maldor, Raboot uses Max Flare and KOs Garbodor. After the agent runs away, Sonia and Goh look at the statue that was revealed last episode, and Goh realizes that one of the Pokemon in the statue looks like the Pokemon he saw in the Slumbering Weald. There's even a small little plaque on the statues with the names of these Pokemon, Zacian and Zamazenta. This basically allows Goh and Sonia to use all the knowledge they have, the fact that the Darkest Day is most likely referring to a single Pokemon, the fact that the hero of Galar are really two people, not just one, and the fact that the Sword and Shield are also Pokemon, to determine that they need to go back to the Slumbering Weald and get help from Zacian and Zamazenta. So, this is what I was worried about last episode, and I feel like it's fully realized here. There is just way too much story to be crammed into 4 episodes. I know the story from the game, so to me, it all makes sense. But even as I was watching this, I couldn't help but feel like they were just vomiting out exposition that was required rather than tell a compelling story. They figured out and connect the dots on everything just way too quickly, and to me that makes it pretty obvious how rushed this arc is. Realistically, this arc should have been a minimum of like 6 episodes, preferably more. This could have allowed our heroes to learn the information and connect the dots in a bit of a more logical fashion rather than what we got here. Anyways, more agents show up, so this time, rather than battling them, Goh tells Sonia that the best thing to do in situations like these is just to run through them. So they do. This allows them to go back to their car, which jams for a second before Sonia gets it to go, and while they're on the move, Goh recommends that they head back to the Slumbering Weald, named after the fact that the fog could make you go to sleep, and try to get Zacian and Zamazenta to help them out. We then cut to Leon, who gets into Rose Tower when another guy opens it. The guy tries to stop Leon and call Rose to ask him if Leon is allowed, but Leon barges his way through anyway. Does anyone find the continuity a bit strange here? Last episode, Leon got into Hammerlock at night, yet he doesn't go in here till the morning. I guess he was waiting for someone to open the door before he went in, but still begs the question, where did he stay during the night? It's not really an important question, but still, it's just weird to me that he got there the previous night but didn't do anything till the next morning. Speaking of morning, Ash is heading out of Rose Tower on his Dragonite, reliving the conversation he had with Rose the previous night about how he was thinking 1,000 years ahead before he gets a call from Goh. Goh lets Ash know that they're heading towards the Slumbering Weald after showing him the picture of the statue and confirming with Ash that when they were separated, Ash also saw that Pokemon. Goh explains to Ash all of their theories so far, which explains why Pokemon are Dynamaxing and rampaging on their own. Meanwhile, Leon gets down to the lab where Eternatus is being held, and chaos is a brew as there's just way too much Galar particle leaking. And before any of the scientists can do anything to stop it, from inside of the egg, it uses its Dynamax cannon move, breaking through the egg-like device with a move which fires a beam all the way to the sky, which creates a dark cloud and a bunch of Galar particles to the sky and spewing them across the region. Ash also sees what's happening from the air and tells Goh that he has to go and try to resolve this. So they agree that Ash should head to Hammerlock while Goh and Sonia will try to get help from Zacian and Zamazenta. In the lab, Team Rocket, who's looking through the mines, waiting for Eternatus to come out so they can capture it, and Leon, who's trying to figure out what's going on, watch as Eternatus itself manages to break through this egg-like device and come out. I said in my preview that Team Rocket will probably play a bigger role in the story. This is where it begins for them. Eternatus is an interesting case in this show, not because of anything it does, but because how it exists. Its models and animations seem to mostly be CG, and because of that, it has this very alien-like feel to it. But because it's also CG, it feels really disconnected from the rest of the animations around it, which is obviously 2D. I'm not sure how to feel about this one. On one hand, a Pokemon like Eternatus shouldn't feel like a regular Pokemon, so regardless of how I feel about it, it does make Eternatus feel like its own beast. But on the other hand, it really is jarring. You can clearly tell it's CG, so much so that it can be distracting at times. And I'm not sure how to feel about this. Please, feel free in the comments to let me know your thoughts on this CG depiction of Eternatus. Leon tries to get one of the scientists to see if there's any way they can contain it, but when the scientist says that everything regarding Eternatus has to go through Rose so they can't do anything, he takes matters into his own hands and brings out his Charizard, getting ready to battle. But before he can, Eternatus flies upwards where there's a giant stadium. Waiting for Eternatus up there is Team Rocket, who at first cower but then decide to catch Eternatus. They try to throw a giant net at it, which obviously won't work. Instead, Eternatus uses his Galar particle and hits Meowth with it, causing it to Gigantamax. At first, Team Rocket are happy. They think this is a great thing because you need something like a Gigantamax Meowth to take on Eternatus. But then, all those hopes are dashed as it begins to chase and attack Team Rocket themselves. As they're running away through a broken wall, they come across Ash, who also notices the Meowth and realizes the Eternatus must be inside. Back in the forest, Goh and Sonia call out to Zacian and Zamazenta, telling them that the darkest day is about to return, and they also see on their phone that Ash is heading towards Eternatus. After calling out to them again, the fog gets denser and denser, and out come both Zacian and Zamazenta. They tell the two Pokemon what's happening before the two Pokemon walk away the way they came. Goh, Sonia, and Raboot chase after it, and in doing so, they come across this altar way at the back of the forest, something that Sonia didn't even know existed. In the altar, Goh sees an old rusted sword and shield, most likely from the midst of the statues, and after exploring the area a bit, they decide to head back to Hammerlock to stop Eternatus. But before they do, Goh decides to take the old sword and the shield because it may have some hidden power that helped stop Eternatus before. I'm a bit disappointed that this altar doesn't look anywhere as cool or as memorable as the altar in the game. It doesn't pop or shine like the one in the game, something I really thought the anime would be able to adopt and make even better, but that doesn't seem to be the case, so that's really unfortunate. As Ash goes inside, he goes in face to face with Eternatus. Eternatus fires a Dynamax cannon at them, and he tries to get Dragonite to dodge, but it still gets hit, causing it to go down. As he's recalling it, from the hole that Eternatus came out of, emerges Leon. He asks him about the Pokemon being the darkest day, but before Leon can respond, we hear the voice of Rose. Rose explains to Ash that yes, indeed this is the darkest day. He also explains to Leon and Ash his plans, and this is where we get to learn a bit more about Rose as a person. The reason he grew up in poverty, as we learned last episode, was that his father used to work in the Galar mines, and died due to an accident. He was also thinking about Galar's energy crisis since Galar will run out of energy in the future. So after racking his brain, he figured out that Eternatus creates Galar particles, something that they can use as a source of energy. That way no one can get hurt in the mines again in the future. So he helps nurture and develop people like Leon in order to have them catch and control Eternatus so that they can use it to create energy for the Galar region, henceforth saving Galar's energy problem. And since I defended the games for this, I'll do the same with the anime. This is a fine motivation for Rose that makes sense. Like Magnolia said, Rose is the person who will continue to do something until he gets what he wants. In this case, while his idea is pretty noble to a certain degree, what makes him a villain is his lack of foresight. This is a problem that's 1,000 years away in the making. The anime I don't think explained it well, but in the game it's made pretty clear. And watching this episode, I'm sure that's what they meant to show. But anyways, this is a problem that's a millennia away. So far ahead that neither Rose nor Leon will be alive to see it. And by 1,000 years, Galar probably would have figured out another solution to their energy problem. So instead of letting things happen naturally, Rose tries to force the fix now, which puts tons of people in danger by bringing back something that caused Galar to almost be destroyed the last time. That motivation is both easy to understand and complex, since technically the villain does have a point, but it's just the way Rose goes about doing it that makes him the villain. Leon says that he will capture Eternatus, but it won't be for energy. He'll capture it so no one can get hurt by it, and he's going to seal it instead of using it to create energy. So like I've said in the previous episode, this makes Leon much more of a hero and a leader character than he was in the game, which is something I love. Someone who doesn't love this, however, is Chairman Rose, who tries to stop Ash and Leon from going after Eternatus by bringing out his Copper and having it use Power Whip. However, Ash responds back with an Iron Tail, telling Leon to go capture Eternatus while he fights Rose. Rose then brings out his Fairthorn for a 2-on-2 battle, while Ash brings out his Riolu. This is good. I'm glad we're not losing a fight, but this still worries me, which I'll talk about in just a bit. As Sonia and Goh are also arriving at Hammerlock, they see a roadblock ahead of them, and taking Goh's earlier advice, Sonia busts through the gates. This actually got changed from the original preview. If you look at the bit here, you can see a bunch of people near the roadblock, the agents, but when Sonia runs through it in the actual episode, we don't see it anymore. It seems like originally they wanted Sonia to break through even with the people blocking there, but for whatever reason, and I suspect it was to curb what might be perceived as promoting too much violence or reckless driving, they got rid of it in the final cut. Either way, they get through, and Sonia tells Goh to go help out Ash while she'll take care of the agents there. The agents bring out their Pokemon, which are all Steel type and seem to get bigger and bigger with each person. But before she has to fight them, from inside arrives Raihan, the gym leader for Hammerlock. He tells the agents that they shouldn't trouble a beautiful lady before bringing out his Duraludon. Inside of the stadium, as Goh is trying to head in, he's stopped by Oleana, who tells him that he is disturbing the chairman by trying to stop his plan, and she brings out a Milotic. Goh gets ready to battle with his Raboot, so that's where we end the episode. Ash getting ready to battle, Goh getting ready to battle, Raihan getting ready to battle, Team Rocket being chased by Meowth, and Leon heading to capture Eternatus. Does anyone else see a major problem here? Because I do, and it's something that I've been harping about for a while now about this arc. How are they going to conclude all of this in just the next episode? Seriously, these battles should be like a minimum of 3 episodes. An episode for Ash vs Rose, an episode for Goh vs Oleana, and the episode for the Eternatus fight. Instead, the next episode will have to juggle all 3 and somehow wrap up the entire story, and that is next to impossible to do in any sort of meaningful way. This means that all of these battles will either be glossed over or rushed like crazy, or, as we see in the preview, most likely, be interrupted by Eternatus Eternamaxing. This isn't a satisfying conclusion to anyone, and this is the main fear I had with the arc going in, which seems to be getting realized these last 2 episodes. Seriously, why is this arc only 4 episodes? That is ridiculous. This entire arc feels like it's been done a disservice. This isn't an arc that you should have happened at this point, so early in the story. It should have happened much later. You could have even had it built up by having first Ash and Goh go off to fight a wild Dynamax Pokemon that shouldn't be there and try to investigate, but ultimately they get nowhere. Then later, another instance of this happens, and this time they go to Sonia to Turffield and they could look at the hieroglyph there. There they could make some assumptions about what could be causing this, and in another episode they could have gone to look at the Hammerlock museum pictures and find the statue behind the mural on Stow-on-Side, and that could have led to more frequent wild Dynamax battles happening. That's when you can start the multi-parter arc where you can dedicate episodes to major battles or story beats like going to Circhester. Instead here, everything is crammed into basically an hour and 20 minutes and given no room to breathe or tell a story, in my opinion, that could have been vastly improved upon from the games. Instead, not only does the anime take the safe route by basically doing a one-to-one story retelling, but it also rushes it out into 4 episodes, leaving out a bunch of questions on the table like how did Rose even capture Eternatus and put it inside the energy ball? The first time we see Eternatus, it's flying freely in the sky. The next time we see it, it's inside a ball. but we'll never get an explanation for something like this because that requires time, something that apparently we can't have. Instead, we have Mewtwo's voice actor returning, so his episode needs to be treated like the biggest thing in the world. What a waste. The next episode is everything I complained about being rushed. My only hope is that at least it is animated well, alright? Please. But anyways, that is it for my review, episode 44 of the Journeys anime. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry for going on a bit of a rant there at the end. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this episode. You can follow me on Twitter at TheRealPDGaming, and that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.